You know, years ago, I did some consulting work for a large company that actually manages a lot of the shopping malls that are throughout the United States. And if I were to name some of them, you'd probably know those malls, especially if you're from those areas. And in those offices that I was managing or consulting for, they had each one individual user here that had, guess what, their own printer. So each user had their own printer. Now, you know what? You probably wonder, James, why aren't you using your professional artist today? Because those graphics look really, you know, kind of fancy and stuff. Well, I know how much you've missed my drawings, and so I'm just going to do this myself, okay? These are all hand-drawn by me, folks. No training involved. So anyway, we have these users that each have their own printer, and to make matters worse, not all of them, but most of them were inkjet printers. Wow, that's very expensive when you take into account the per page price, because ink is much more expensive than laser, even color laser. So what we have to do here is to minimize costs and management expenses. It's much better if we have all of our users here. Let me get my pen back out. If we have all of our users here, and instead of giving them each their own printer, maybe we have a server here that's a print server. And the print server is physically connected to, or over the network, it doesn't matter either way, is connected somehow or another to a printer. And a lot of these printers nowadays, you probably have some of these in your office, are gigantic. They're more like copy machines, big copy machines, and they can print out, gosh, who knows how many pages per minute and stuff. Very, very fast, and I'll just make a gigantic print job here. And they print very fast. So anyway, it's capable of managing print jobs from multiple users at once. So now all the users connect to the printer, which is, for their perspective, actually the print server. And once they connect to the print server, they send their print jobs here, and then it gets sent out to this physically connected printer or network connected printer, and it's all managed by the print server. Now, this print server doesn't have to be a big fancy Windows Server 2016 server. It could even be a Win 10 computer or any current version of Windows. Just some computer here that has this printer installed and that we can then share with all of these other users. So the first thing I need to do is to get a printer installed if I don't already have one, and notice that I have already got one right here. Once it's been installed, I can then share it. Now, this is a color photo printer that's used for high quality output, and I think it's a 13-inch wide printer. So this might be something that maybe my graphics marketing department, something like that, might want to use. So if I go into the properties of this, you'll first of all notice that there's no sharing on this. Okay, that's because I'm in the wrong properties dialog box. What you'll want to do in order to share it is to go into printer properties. Okay, once we get into this, we now have a sharing tab. What we can do now is to share this printer. I do think that the names of these are kind of counterintuitive or not very clear, so I might just call this something more easy, and I call this marketing, photo printer. Okay, something like that. Now, this is an interesting check mark. This will render print jobs on the client computers. When a print job gets sent, it has to be crunched out into a certain kind of a format. It has to be run through the driver, and it has to be sent into a certain format that makes it suitable for the printer to be able to produce. However, if I were to clear this this check mark right here, then this computer that we're looking at right here would be responsible for all inbound print jobs, and it would be responsible for crunching through all those print jobs. Very burdensome on this computer. Also, because it's a client operating system, it's only capable of handling 20 concurrent connections, so you might want to keep that in mind. If you need to have more than 20, you will need to go to an actual server. But we'll render the print jobs on the client computers so we don't have that burden, and then we can also list in directory, which is Active Directory, meaning that someone could search Active Directory, say, for the word marketing, and then this marketing photo printer would pop up in the results. Now, once this has been shared, and I'm going to click Apply here, then it's available for other people to use. However, it's just kind of a broad scope permissions. There's not really a lot of granularity in this. There is some things you can do on the security tab. Once it's been shared, everyone has print permissions here. Once they send a print job, they become the creator owner, which means they can also manage their own documents. So, for example, if I were to send a print job to this computer and to this printer from remotely, then I become the creator owner, and let's say I change my mind before the print job is actually completed. I could go into the print queue and delete my own print job, but I couldn't delete other people's print jobs, although that's sometimes more fun. But what we could do here is if you're an administrator, or in this case, the trainer account, who also created this printer, then notice that I have print, manage this printer, and manage documents. So I could manage other people's documents and delete their print jobs, same as administrators here. By the way, when we say manage this printer, that means that I could do things such as change the properties of it, change the defaults, things like that. Another thing I could do, though, and notice there's a deny column over here. Maybe the sales team has a tendency to send garage sale flyers and their kids, fundraising letters and all those kinds of things for their school band and all that over here. So I'll say, sales, the sales group, security group here, we're going to deny them print permission because they've kind of abused their privileges here. So you can also do that, especially for specialty printers or very expensive ones, or maybe ones that kind of get overutilized. So here we're logged on to a different computer, and I want to connect to that shared printer. Now, this is a little bit counterintuitive in a couple of ways. I'll show you this. Let's go into Control Panel. What I'll do is go to Hardware and Sound, then you can see here Devices and Printers, and then I can go into Add a Printer. The problem is, even though I gave that printer a different name, I think it was Marketing Photo Printer, it's still going to give me the strange Epson name. There it is, the strange Epson name in here. So I wish it wouldn't do that. I wish it would give me the shared name, but that's just kind of an annoyance. Anyway, notice that it has this one. That's the one that I just shared a moment ago, and then it also has this. This one's not connected to any computer. This one is. What's the difference? Well, that printer also has wireless capabilities. It's on my local network here, and so it's discoverable, and I could print directly to that. So that's just something to be aware of, and in doing so, I won't have a central location to manage the print queue. If people print directly to this, then as an administrator, there's really not much I can do. However, as an administrator of this computer, I can see, 3, 4, 5 different people's print jobs and manage them, for example. So that's a little bit of an advantage there. Now, if you want to see the actual marketing name that I showed earlier, the printer that I want isn't listed, you can select that option and then select a shared printer by name. And as you browse for it on that specific computer, you'll see the Marketing Photo Printer, and we can select that one and then next through it. It's going to add in any print drivers that are necessary, and we'll continue on. Oh, this is interesting. By the way, let's look at this. Epson, and notice that it gives us this V4 printer, class printer driver. A lot of print manufacturers these days, all the big ones, HP, Canon, Epson, all the big names, they have a class driver now that's kind of a one-size-fits-all. So this class driver will actually work with any number of printers, physical printers, from Epson. So it's a really ingenious method now for coming up with these drivers. It gives us a lot of capabilities there and advantages. You can print a test page if you want to. I'm going to click on Finish. And then now we'll see here that we've got that printer installed here. Now going back over here where we had the printer installed originally, there's another console you can use here. It's called Print Management.msc. And if you open this up, this print management item, then this will show you all the printers that you have installed. There's really not a lot to do here related to sharing itself, although if you're interested in this, it does give you quite a lot of other capabilities here beyond what you would get in Control Panel. So, for example, if you wanted to remove it from the directory, maybe everybody now is trying to print to my photo printer, and we're pouring ink into the thing, then I can remove it from directory so it's not searchable anymore. I can also do things like disable or enable Branch Office Direct Printing. I'd actually enabled it earlier, so you might see this option here. And this gives us the ability to save on WAN bandwidth, so that if we have a branch office, it doesn't have to send everything across the WAN. I do have an article open here. I think it's somewhere right here. So if you want to learn more about Branch Office Direct Printing, not really part of our topic, but here's an article where you can get more information on it. I've got a tiny URL that you can reference there. Now, there is another thing that, again, I think is going to be outside of our scope because it deals more with group policy here, but this is just too good not to show you. You can deploy a printer with group policy. Wow. Because it's a group policy, I can link this to an organizational unit and install this on every user's computer that's in a specific OU, like the Marketing OU or the Phoenix Users OU or something like that, or Phoenix Computers OU. So I can deploy something with the group policy object. I can give it a name, and I can browse here, and I'll just call this one, or link this one actually to a specific location. Let me try to find a good space for this. So I can go to Phoenix and Phoenix Desktops, let's say. I can go here, and then I could create a new group policy object here, and I'll call this Deployed Printers. Okay, and then I'll click OK. And then what will happen here is I can say users could be applied here. Okay, so I can apply this to the GPO to users or to computers. the OU that I specified would be something that contains only computer objects, so it doesn't really much matter in this case. But you can choose either or as it applies. And then you simply click on Add here, and then add in the printer. So what that's going to do is it's going to reach out across the network to my domain controller, where I've made a connection using the Group Policy Management Editor here, using remote server administration tools for Windows 10. This allows you to use all of the server tools on your Windows client. But anyway, you can see I've drilled down here under Computer Configuration Policies, Windows Settings, and then Deployed Printers, and there's the printer. If you have any others you want to add in, you simply click on Deploy Printer, and then you can browse for them or add the UNC path in or whatever you need to. I don't think I have any more that I can add in right now. But that's how that's done, and you can see there's an equivalent setting here underneath the user configuration, and again, Deployed Printers down here. And then finally, I want to show you one other way of adding a printer. That's to use PowerShell. This is a script that I wrote. It's available for you up on our download files just below the viewer to the right. You should see a link for these accompanying files once this series is complete. But you could just use some different PowerShell commandlets like add printer driver. We want to add the driver first so that we have something to work with, and we specify the name of the computer. We can do this remotely as well, so I can say a remote computer if I want to. This happens to be the same computer that I'm working on right now, and then we name it. I just kind of picked one at random. By the way, how did I know when to put in HP Color LaserJet 1600 class driver? People, you know, I'm just that smart. I just know what to type in. I'm clairvoyant or something. I don't know. Anyway, what we have here really is you have to have the same name as appears, for example, in Control Panel or the actual name of a driver. So if I were to go to Hardware and Sound here again and, you know, add another printer, let me just get there real quick here and show Add Printer. If I go to this Add the Printer that I want wasn't listed, and then I can go into just something like this, just manually and add one in. I'm just trying to get to another dialog. Once I get into this dialog box right here, then I can specify whatever I want to, and notice that I went to HP, and I just picked the first one that I think appeared there, right there, okay? So I have to type that in verbatim, okay? Or you have to know the exact name of the printer driver that you're working with. But anyway, that's what I type in there. Windows will recognize that and install the appropriate printer driver. Then we have to add in a port as well, so I'm specifying an IP port right here, and that's the host address, the printer host address. Then we add in the printer computer name, again, is the same as Windows 10, Win10.01, and this is the name of the printer, okay, Sales and Marketing Printer, and we give it the driver name here as well, and then there's a backtick here specifying that I want it to wrap around to the share name, so I'm going to give it this share name that people can access. And then I set the printer configuration. I can also do this. Once it's been printed, once it's been made available, and this would be the end of it right here, I can also reconfigure the printer by specifying that I want to use a legal paper size here. Okay, that's the default paper size. So I'm just going to run this one line at a time. You'll see it go on. There's the first item. I'm going to add in the printer driver. Here's the printer port where I'm going to add in 10.10.10.12 as a printer port. This is backticked to two different lines here, so I'm going to select both of those lines and run this. Now it's going to add in that printer. I have a printer here now named share name Sales and Marketing. Let's confirm that before we go any further. I'll go back into Control Panel here, and then go to Hardware and Sound, and then I guess I should have left this open. Then go back into my printers, and there's my Sales and Marketing printer. Okay, if I go into the properties of this, actually printer properties, then we see that the sharing here, it is shared as Sales and Marketing, as we specified earlier. If I go over here to ports, it's on that port that we specified, 10.10.10. Let me go over here, 10.10.10.12. And on the Advanced tab, here's the driver. So, you know, all of that was done through PowerShell. That might be very handy if I want to mass deploy a bunch of printers or make a lot of changes in settings and stuff like that. But now what we could do here is to also set the printer configuration of the paper size to legal, and I'll run that as well. Easy as pie. So this is a good starting point for you if you want to work with PowerShell and installing and configuring printers. So that's configuring shared printers. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.